There are many impossible things. It's impossible for us to touch the tip of our elbow with the tip of our tongue. It's impossible to breathe and speak together. It's also impossible to sneeze and keep your eyes open at the same time. We face impossible situations in our lives pretty often. Some of you are going through a season of very impossible situations right now. But I want to encourage you today. We can trust God with our impossible situations. Luke chapter 17 verses 11 to 19 brings us across 10 people who are facing an impossible situation. They are inflicted with a deadly disease which can render them accursed. They are thought of to be unclean and they are looked down upon. They've lost everything they have. And what we see here in Luke chapter 17 is that they are broken by their impossible situations. But what we learn here about Jesus will change our minds. The first thing we learn about Jesus is that our problems don't stop Jesus. We are limited by our problems, but our problems don't stop Jesus. The reason why I say that is the passage clearly mentions that Jesus was going to Jerusalem via the route that goes between Samaria and Galilee. And this was a route that most Jews chose to avoid because they wanted to have nothing to do with Samaritans or with Samaria. And yet for all, in John chapter 4, we are told that Jesus preferred this route. He needed to go through this route because he knew that there were people there who needed him. There was a tension, there was a problem in those days, but yet for all, those problems did not stop Jesus. Our problems do not stop Jesus, dear friends. If at all, our problems bring us closer to him and he comes closer to us. That's the first thing that we learn from the story. The second thing that we learn is Jesus knows us. In verse 13, we are told, verse 13 and 14, we are told that when they cried out to Jesus, Jesus saw them. The word used in the original language signifies to recognize deeply. And when Jesus saw them, he recognized not just their condition, but he knew exactly their stories, their journeys. You see, the people back in those days would have only known them, and their knowledge would have been limited to their sickness and what they saw before them. And that would have been a very distorted picture. But when Jesus saw them, he knew exactly what they were going through, what was going to happen, and how things were going to shape up for them. Yet, he chose to heal them, and he knew them. Jesus knows us. You may feel like no one knows your situations or your problems, but be rest assured, when Jesus sees, he knows. He is looking at you even as you're going through this difficult time. I want to assure you, our problems don't stop him. Jesus knows us. And the third truth that we can learn from this passage is Jesus cleanses us. Back in the day, leprosy had no cure. If you contracted the disease, it was implied that you had sinned and you had called this disease upon yourself because of that. And the treatment for those lepers weren't really good. They would have probably lost everything they had. But we are told in verse 14 that even as they were on their way, after Jesus proclaimed the word, even as they were on their way, they were cleansed. Friends, how heavy the burden of sin and how heavy the burden of pain can be. These lepers had carried it with them for we do not know how many years, but it would have broken them. And many of us are carrying the burden of sin, carrying the burden of pain, and we feel like we are the only ones who have to carry this, and there is no solution to this. But I want to assure you, we can come to Jesus, and Jesus can cleanse us. So trust him today. Trust him with your impossible situations, because when the world can give up on us, Jesus comes closer to us and he holds us with him. I want to assure you, we can trust God with our impossible situations. God bless you.